What's good, everybody? Back once again. And, yo, this Snow White drama has been really getting out here. I was like, I've seen here and there, I think her name like Rachel Zeglar, you know, talking and stuff like that, and then seeing people talking about, and I'm just thinking, like, oh, okay, it's the host. I was like, probably just her being cast Snow White. It's the whole thing with the multi ethnic dwarf situation. Well, they're not even, and they're not dwarfs. So, so there was that whole dilemma that it was just like, man, this is a really crazy diverse cast. Wait, there's also, where it's like multicolored people while also uh, boys and girls here, because, that's a thing as well. But then also, like, let's make them regular sized people, which the crazy thing is that I'm like, if you was gonna do this whole plan of, everybody gonna be like, whoa, but being like diverse or having an array of characters, it's weird that you would do the one that's already a marginalized group. That, be honest, I was like, when else do people really put them in movies? And the one time they can actually be in movies and be represented, you take him away. Which I mean, I was like, I forgot his name, but he was in the Game of Thrones and stuff like that. I think he talked about it and it was like, we shouldn't even be using them or whatever. Which then he sort of got into it over that, and it's kind of like, but when else are you going to really be used? Like, I get it if you just always just use that the funny pun and being like, oh, you're really like short or whatever, but I was like, that's not really what's going on here. And I'm like, you don't really get them any. You shouldn't be trying to take the opportunity away when you only got the opportunity. But other than the movie just looking, like, I don't really care or much. So I was like, it depends to me. I was like, I guess maybe I got like selective, like, not outright. I don't really, it doesn't bother me like that. But like selective thoughts and stances on these things. But so does everybody else. So I guess I'm not that much different. But them remaking whatever, we already done seen this. I was like, them changing, them doing race swapping. I was like, we done seen it or whatever. And for the most part, it had to work, whether it's because of that or because it's like the movie just not being like good in that sense. And but then it's also like you're giving it to a whole new crop of kids. So what does it really matter in the end anyway? But I think everybody could sort of just be like, here we go with another one. They're remaking it. They're bringing back an old IP and trying to do this, blah, 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 changing it up, blah, blah, blah. But it seems like it's really the girl who, Rachel, is that her, not necessarily her being Snow White, but it really seems like the way that she's talking and acting is really being like the problem here. I seen some people say that it's almost like how Brie Larson had her whole thing back in the day. Man, I was like, that wasn't even that long ago, but I guess it was that long ago. But back in the day, where she was doing all the interviews and rubbing people the wrong way, people that she's cast members with, the press and stuff. And to be honest, I didn't think what she said to the press was really that serious or whatever. But I was like, this is just where we at in life. But I did think her way of dealing with stuff with the cast was very, like, like you felt it, like, like when you could walk into a room and you like, man, there was an argument in here. I don't like the way this. That's what it felt like, and that's sort of like, like she's not really getting any like, like anything coming back toward her from like, I guess like the interviewers and nothing like that. But online it's crazy. But also, this one of the few times I'm like, I actually sort of get it, like the way that she's coming off is very abrasive. And even sometimes where I in my head, I'm like, I can hear her, and I'm like, in my head, I'll be like, that's like a joke. That's meant to be a joke. Like when she said, when she was talking about, she tried to give her whole point about the story is about somebody being saved, and we're not worried about that. And, the dude is basically a stalker or whatever. And I was like, on one hand, I was like, to me, that's a joke. But everything else that I was like, but the problem is that when you try to joke, all your other stuff combines also that. So if you're already sort of being like jerk, guess what? Your jokes ain't gonna land as if you're already trying to like be like funny or whatever. And I was like, I was like, and nowadays too, it's like I was like, that's the story, but basically to say like he's a stalker and all this other stuff to the dude when all he really just shows up and he really just like saves her, and we could get to the whole like she sleep kissing her, but I was like, but that's the only way to wake up. And I was like, did you just stay dead? I don't, there's that whole thing, but then like her just talking about how like like basically like it's one thing that the whole thing is about to be like a new story, and all this other stuff. But pretty much, you're not making Snow White anymore. And it's one of these weird things where I'm like, do you want something to be basically hit for hit of how it was back in the day of like where it's like an actual this is a live action remake of it, or do you want some liberty? Do you want some changes in the story? Because to me, I was like, I'll be honest, I'm like, I'm not gonna watch it regardless, but I definitely ain't gonna watch it if ain't nothing new in it. But also, am I gonna would I have watched it anymore if it would have been the same? So it's just one of them like, if it's too new, guess what? People gonna not like it. Because I was like, pretty much everybody knows the story. Even if you're young, you pretty much probably know the story. But if it's beat for beat, then what's the purpose of seeing it when it's like I could just see the cartoon and I don't have to see the live action? What's the point of live action? But I don't know. Cause we have sort of the problem with comics as well too. Where it's like people want beat for beat almost with the comics, but also to me that's dumb because I'm like, this is its own separate thing. So therefore, I don't want everything you see in the comic. Like, yes, take elements and switch it up and change it up and adapt it also for like the time being and stuff like that. And I could sort of see where that idea could sort of come in with some of these things, but I was like, but the problem is you're trying to hit a nostalgia hit, and you're trying to hit a nostalgia hit, then you sort of got to go beat for beat. You sort of can't really be out here just changing them. But going back to Rachel, I was like, normally when you sort of get, you know, like these like changes. I was like, you're over here, but you're the main character, and you're like, we're gonna do a whole different story. You're supposed to sell me on it, you know. And like, for instance, like Little Mermaid that everybody had, with the whole race swapping of that or whatever. My gripe was like, why didn't we race swap anybody else? We just did her, and I was like, to me, that's like a ploy. But anyway, uh, I was like, pretty much. I was like, you sort of know what you're gonna get into when you get accepted to like these roles that are different, or I was like, look, there's gonna be people on the extreme on both ends. So pretty much the only thing you could do is just be like, it's gonna be a great movie. I'm excited, blah blah. And I was like, you need to give them boring PR speech while also showing your personality. She's sort of going against Rachel, sort of going against the grain of being like, if you don't like it, I was like, and this is how it is. This is how it's going to be bred to people. That if you don't like it, you suck. Get over it. Uh, like we're doing our own thing, and insert you are this if you don't agree with it. That's how pretty much everybody gonna take it. Especially because I was like people I've been seeing has not even been like there's people that that always are on a stream of you know MCU and being like woke Disney and all this other stuff, blah blah. Well, I've been even seeing just like regular people who just report the news, just being like, why is nobody in there telling her to slow this down? And but hey, to be honest, I was like, I don't think that was gonna do it. I think it's how she's also been talking, like like since the strike and stuff like that is going on, how she's talking in that type of way, where she's like, I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna get my money the way I need it and all this other stuff. When it's kind of like, yeah, but you've already got your main pay where you're good. I was like, it's not that you don't need to be paid for it if it gets streamed and stuff like that. But it's really about the people that's writing your script and the people that are over here doing like the photos and the and like the videography and all this other stuff. Though where they're like getting like pennies over here. You got your big lump sum. You're good. I was like, so like you could be like, I'd stand in the dress for all 18 hours and all this other stuff, blah blah. And I'm like, but I'm like, you got your fat check, and not like over here like like you got your money, be quiet. But I'm like, but you're good with your lump sum. This is sort of what that's the part of the deal that you get, while the other one back there has to they're basically waiting on like, oh, the concert residuals. I was like, like they need the ones that get their time in and out of their daily like procedure. But her way of going about it is very strong. And to me, no matter what end of anything that you're on, when you're that strong, you're always going to rub off even people that I don't feel like you're trying to rub off. Not how that meant. But I was like, because to be honest, we sort of in a spot where I'm like, bad. I was like, there's really there's like, whether it's positive or negative, I was like, everything is like a good opportunity for anything. So, because I'm like, guess what? Brie Larson, when her whole stuff was going on, guess what? Captain Marvel made over $1 billion. Now, I'm one of the people that just because you make a lot of money, that doesn't tell me that you're good or bad at something. More so than, you had a product, everyone got it. And something like a movie, you can't return that. So therefore, they're not really saying anything. Because I was like, the movie was like, man, I think most people say it's like, man. But, so I'm like, the Snow White, if you do this right, the publicity for this, while negative right now, might turn out a lot of people to be like, let me see what this movie is. It's going to be garbage. It's going to suck. It's going to blah, blah, blah. I was like, guess what? They paid for your movie. They can't take it back. You're going to get that regardless. So, either way, it could work. But the way you are coming off and everything else, that's more of a hindrance in like other stuff, and other people are going to see you in projects that don't have the IP that can carry what you're doing. But hey, I was like, I think this also really is only a big deal, really also because there's nothing else going on with the whole strike. You can't, like there's really nothing else really to talk about. Where I feel like if we had like the movies and the press and stuff like that, TV shows were like really churning out, like about to turn out, and because I was like about to hit fall, so that lineup would normally start to hit coming up. But since it's quiet, guess what? More stuff like this is going to be talked about through ether, and I was like, I mean, it's not something I particularly like. I'm like, oh, that really gets me like it does other people, but I can see where a lot of people coming from in general. But anyway, now my 2 cents on the whole situation. Appreciate anything I said here. You got a different opinion, you want something to say, blah, blah, blah. Let me know. I was like, get into it or not. But if you also don't like the video, hey, that's fine. I was like, maybe next time. But till then, peace. I'm out.